After Frederick's death, his widow, Isabella, was left to bring up 5 children on an army pension. As the eldest daughter, Evelyn, Fiona's grandmother, was taken out of school to help look after the other children. But Isabella was able to get her eldest son, Fred, into a well-known charitable school. Christ's Hospital in Horsham, Sussex provides a public school-style education for children from families who can't afford to pay high fees. Competition for entry into the school was fierce, but Isabella was able to use her husband's distinguished army service to secure a place for Fred. Fiona's hoping that the school may still hold records of Frederick's military service and the family's financial circumstances at the time. Tony Hogarth Smith is the archivist of the school's museum.
Right, thank you.
What we have in this register is your relative, Frederick Crouch.
Little Fred, let's see. There we are. So 23rd of November 1950, that's his date of birth. Son of Frederick Charles, deceased, of course, and Isabella.
I'll tell you more about that in a moment.
Right.
But that's the basic register, and if I just take you through this document, which is essentially the application.
Wow, incredible.
So we have here Isabella actually writing herself. This is her writing, witnessed by other people. And she's telling us in this about her circumstances a bit. We've got some very interesting documents here. The first one we got here is actually the notification of Fred's father's death. Exactly the original, from the trenches, as it were, or from the battlefield.
And you've got this here?
We've got it here.
How
Personally, I think it belongs with the family.
Yeah,
but,
how extraordinary. So, dear Mrs. Crouch, it is with the greatest regret I have to inform you that your husband died early this morning of wounds received in action yesterday evening. About 4:30 or 5 p.m, I think. He was crossing from the battery position to the road when a shell burst close to him and a fragment penetrated his body from back to front. I'm thankful to be able to say that he cannot have suffered, as he was unconscious almost from the first, I understand. Do you know, I bet they always said that.
Yes.
I am truly sorry and sympathise with you deeply in your sad loss. My God. So this was the letter. This was the letter they got saying that he'd... Gosh, imagine how she felt when she was reading this.
It's almost unimaginable.
It is, actually. She'll have cried over this, that's for sure. Little smudge there, maybe that's what that is.
So, Christ's Hospital was founded for poor men's children and fatherless children.
Right.
So Fred was ideal, because he was fatherless. Part of the application would be to examine her financial circumstances, which, of course, at the time that Fred joined us, would have been partly aided by a pension. So we see that at the time she applied, she'd got 5 children, 2 sons, 3 daughters. And in respect of those 5 children, she was getting a war pension of £36 a year for each of those, a total of £180. And she was also getting a pension for herself as a widow of £180, making £360.
So she's getting £360 a year?
£360 a year.
So that was pretty good then. I mean, that was
I
a
think
reasonable
yes.
sort of living income for her, even with 5 children.
Yes, I mean, it's of the order of £7 a week, something of that sort of order.
Right. Sounds like diddly squat, doesn't it? but then it was enough. It was enough to be comfortable.
Yes, and a labourer might be earning, say, £2 a week, £1.50, something like that. The nub of the application is really what Isabella has to say in support of Fred.
My late husband enlisted in the RGA, 26th of May 1898, risen to the rank of sergeant, 14th of May 04, was commissioned 19th of December 1914, went overseas February 1916, was invalided home, suffering from shell shock. Oh, it's the first time I've heard that. And he was in, oh God, terrible. And he was in hospital 9 months, was sent out again October 1917, and was killed in action November 2nd, 1917. My goodness, he was sent home with shell shock. He was hospitalised for 9 months. But for, see what I was told, God, how can that be, is that what I was told is that he came home and that he was unwell, but he was, and I didn't know how he was unwell, and then he was very keen to get back to the front. But if you have shell shock, you'd think that would be the last thing you'd want to do.
Well, I found out that Fred had shell shock, and that was why he was home before he then went back to the front. And I was really stunned by that, actually. I don't know why, because, of course, shell shock was quite common, but, you know, all I'd seen is this history of this man who was a professional serving officer who'd risen through the ranks pretty quickly, was had done very well for himself. So I was really surprised that then he'd come home. He spent 9 months off with shell shock. I mean, that must have been pretty severe. Poor bugger, you know. And then to go back, and apparently he was keen to get back. I can believe that even less now, but maybe he was just thought he ought to be keen, so he put that on, I don't know, and I thought that's how I should be feeling. I should be going back to the front and being with my men, so that's what I'm going to do. And what I'd really like to know now is a bit more about that, you know, how bad his shell shock was. I assume pretty bad, and, you know, where was he treated? That's what I'd like to know now.
At the Maudsley Hospital in London, Fiona's meeting resident psychiatrist Professor Edgar Jones, who treats victims of post-traumatic stress disorder.
I found out that my great-grandfather Frederick had shell shock, and he had it for 9 months as well, so it must have been pretty severe.
I've done some research into your great-grandfather, and it's possible that he might have come here to the Maudsley Hospital. And these buildings here were constructed in 1916 and used for the treatment of shell-shocked soldiers.
So what would have happened to him once he had said that he'd got shell shock and he was invalided out?
Been sent back to the UK, where he would have been assessed by doctors either here at the Maudsley or possibly down at Netley in Southampton. As an officer, he would get better treatment than an ordinary soldier. There were special hospitals opened for officers, and they were given better treatment because people rightly thought that they carried a burden of responsibility.